Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Good morning. Hello. Welcome to the podcast. So it's 8:30 on Friday morning, Friday the 2nd of May. And I'm just taking a moment to do the podcast now. I was going to do it last night and I was really, really grumpy yesterday. And I thought, maybe don't go and do it when you're really grumpy. Nobody wants to listen to you being miserable. Today's episode is what no one tells you about being a new cut flower grower. I've had a bit of not a wobble this week. Well, yeah, tiny wobble this week because I've really, really been up against it because I committed to this hanging basket job. And then it turns out the hours are much more than I thought they were going to be. And so, in the nicest possible way, I'm under quite a lot of pressure to go and do it a lot of the time. And it's really challenging because I still have, regular clients that I see. And I've also got all this work to do with my own seedlings, with dahlias, with the plot. And then obviously we've had this crazy heat wave this week, which just makes everything more difficult. Just because you're running around watering and moving things around and making sure everything's still alive, making sure the chickens haven't tipped their water over, and making sure the dog doesn't overheat, and then obviously the heat is quite sapping. So I shouldn't complain because it's amazing and we desperately need decent weather and all the rest of it, but it just presents certain challenges. And when you're kind of rushing from one job to another, there's not enough time in the day, even if you get up at 7:30 to fit everything in. So it's all been a bit rushed, and some things have just completely gone to the wall this week, like just taking care of myself and my relationships and everything. So I thought, well, actually, you know what? This is a really good week to talk about what no one tells you when you're starting out, because I have really felt it this week and I wanted to share it with you. So I put first on my list, you have no money, regardless of what time of year you start. Now, this isn't going to be the same for everybody. I recognize some people are going to start with a proper fund and, maybe maybe you're transitioning from a job and you just start doing it part time and you have got some money to put into it. But if, like me, you start with absolutely nothing, and I would not recommend anybody do this because it does make things an awful lot harder. The idea, I guess, is that unless you've got pots of money, is that you transition slowly from your main source of income to growing cut flowers. And it is possible to do growing cut flowers, as a sideline outside of your normal hours. But my goodness me, it will be difficult and you will probably lose your mind at some point. So I was thinking, well, is there a time of year that I could have started this business when it wouldn't be so bad, financially? And I don't think there is one, because regardless of what point you start in the year, January, July, October, you're going to have some kind of financial outlay. Now, if you're doing annuals, then you probably can't get as much done in sort of September, October. There are some things you could sow in the autumn that you have little plants by the time the spring comes, but that means babysitting them all winter. You could buy all of your tulips, if you started later in the season, August, September time, you could buy them, put them in November, and you'll have some money coming in the spring. But there just seems to be, when you start out, this massive gap while you're waiting for everything to grow and you're looking at it all going, okay, you guys are going to be ready in a couple of months. So I know there's going to be a stream of income coming in from that point. But there's just this horrible gap when you first start off and you're buying things like your seeds or perennials or bulbs or roses or compost or stakes or canes or trays or whatever it is. And until you've got them, you have to spend money to buy them. And it does get extremely tight. So definitely make sure you've got enough of a pot of money to keep you going, to keep the wolf from the doors, to make sure all your bills get paid. That's like the bare minimum before you can even get started. So definitely a lesson learned there from my side of things. The second thing is like water. Like there's either too much or not enough. So 2024 was like the wettest year ever. I think something in the UK like the wettest for 100 years or something ridiculous. Like we had a very small bit of heat in about March, April time, and then it was just wet all year round. Well, that made 2024 really challenging. On the plus side, it's made everything fantastic this spring because everything got such a good watering last year and we didn't have a cold winter. Like the blossom has never been this good on all the fruit trees, the cherries, the apples. It's been absolutely stunning this year. And I think the shrubs are nicer than they've ever been. And things like primroses, like definitely the best year I can remember for primroses. But now it's incredibly dry and it has been for weeks now. And I've just looked at the weather forecast this morning. I mean, I look at it about 3 times a day in the hope that there's going to be rain, and there isn't. So I looked this morning, no rain for another fortnight, which is very challenging. So if you're like me, you're watering your seedlings on the mains water because they're at home with me, that is not a problem. But if you've got stuff outdoors, that will present certain challenges. And I dread to think what would happen with the dahlias if we have a dry spell because they need a lot of water every single day. So the conditions are going to change every year. And my suggestion will be to have as many backup options as you can, which is water storage devices. And I've yapped on about this quite a lot. Water butts, try and save as much rainwater as you can. Have as many large containers as you can, even if it's just a dustbin underneath a piece of guttering that comes off a shed or a greenhouse or some kind of structure that you have. Then try and collect your water from that. And then obviously don't be an idiot like I was and leave the tap running overnight so you drain it all out. But, again, you can't complain because this is nature and this is life and this is how it goes. All you can do is control what you can control. Everything else is out of your hands. So at this time of year, using up water that you've stored previously is what I will be doing up on the plot. But again, I don't have very much because of that mistake. So it's just something to bear in mind. And if you have the luxury of having mains water on your plot and you're able to set up irrigation that makes things easy for you, then I would strongly recommend you get that put in right at the beginning. So standpipes, dotted around the plot, fantastic idea. Or you might have drip irrigation or soakaways or leaky pipes running across the plot. Get them all set up if you've got the resources and the ability to do that, because it will make your life so much easier. What you don't want to be doing is what I do, which is watering with a watering can and walking, I wouldn't say long distances across the plot, but my plot's not that big. But the point is, it's not particularly efficient to have water in one place and then have to walk a long way carrying the watering can and putting it down somewhere else and then walking back and refilling it. Normally I have a 2 watering can system, so while one is filling up, I'm out watering with the other one. That's the way so that you maximize efficiency, but even so. And I love using a watering can because then I know exactly how much I've put on. I'm not very good with judging volumes coming out of hose pipes, and I don't have enough pressure up there because I'm not on the mains. So I prefer to do everything with a watering can, and they're all having a tough love watering policy this week. In fact, I watered the cornflowers and the nigella for the first time last night. So it was absolutely boiling yesterday. I think it got up to about 28 degrees centigrade. And I thought, well, I better give you guys some water. They're all doing fine. They're doing what I wanted them to do, which is to get their roots down really quickly and go looking for that water themselves. And bless them, if you don't give them an alternative, that is what they'll go and do. But I did feel a bit sorry for them yesterday. Not enough hours in the day is my third one. So I have touched on this before, I think. Even if you get up at like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, there still just don't seem to be enough hours in the day because there is so much to do. And you'll just be racing through the day. And it's important that you give some thought to that, especially if you are transitioning from another career and you're thinking, oh, well, I'll do a couple of hours before work or a couple of hours after work. That is fine. Just remember that you've got all of your other life stuff to do as well. Shopping, washing, cleaning, people's birthday parties, people coming to stay. You might have pets or children or husband or responsibilities or a wife or whatever it is that you've got going on. And there just isn't enough hours in the day. So you do need to bear that in mind and try and be as efficient as possible where you can. Keep things like seedlings close to you so that you can just pop out and deal with them first thing in the morning and last thing at night. And just bear in mind that it's actually quite, or it can be, quite a fraught time. Listening to other flower growers podcasts, it's not just me. I think, oh, it's just me and poor time management or whatever. But when I listen to other people, they're also extremely, extremely busy. So you can maximize the hours, but just take care of yourself. Make sure that you don't burn out, that you don't overheat, and that things just don't go off the rails a bit, because this is only the very start of the season and things will stay busy for a long time and then they'll tail off a bit. But you need to keep your energy levels up at this time of year. Make sure you eat properly, drink properly, and take care of yourself so that you can take care of everybody else. So the fourth thing on my list is, what have I put here? Seedlings all need different care. No, they do. So generally speaking, you think, well, I'll just put them all in the trays, put them in the greenhouse, water them all, and they'll all be fine. Well, it turns out that they all have slightly different needs. Now, I think I mentioned in a previous episode, the zinnias have absolutely loved the heat this week. You can leave them in the greenhouse and they haven't batted an eyelid. In fact, I think they've just had the best week of their lives. The English seedlings, like the cornflowers, the nigellas, have not enjoyed this week very much. They've had to go outside of the greenhouse on the potting on table and just calm themselves down out there because they all got very flustered. What's been interesting about the nigella that I didn't realise is that they have not enjoyed being watered from above. So my first couple of trays of nigella, which have already gone outside, didn't have a problem with those guys at all. There was no damping off. There were no stems that just sort of collapsed. They've just been like little troopers, and maybe I got a bit complacent and thought, oh, well, they'll all be like that. But the subsequent trays I've probably lost about 50% of them. They've just damped off, and I think it's because I have been watering them incorrectly, or they just haven't enjoyed what I've done. And where the stem is joining soil, they have just collapsed. The stem has rotted. And I have been, I guess, a bit rushed, and so I haven't taken the time to water them from below. I did try for a couple of evenings to just water them from below, but I'd already had the losses by that. So that's just something to factor into, that they don't all enjoy the same conditions. Some of them seem to do fine wherever you put them in the greenhouse. I've got a section that's ever so slightly shady because I've got a willow tree that's come out. Some of them just sit there and sulk and they're not happy. So they've all had to be moved around the greenhouse to try and work out what position they like. And the ones on the top shelf, some of them do love the top shelves. Some of them hate the top shelf and they're really miserable. And you can kind of tell, especially, it's obviously harder if they've not popped up above the soil, but for those that are a few centimeters high, you can just go out there and look at them and go, oh dear, you're not happy. So there's been a merry-go-round of moving seedlings to different shelves, watering them differently, treating them differently because of the temperature levels. So that's been quite interesting. The annuals are pretty demanding, and I just cannot wait till they're all in the ground. So you will have a million things to do all at once. Now, this is not exclusive to um, being a cut flower grower, certainly not at this time of year, but it's quite interesting when you're a new person. And I really did think, oh, just sow some seedlings in trays, put them in the greenhouse, not a problem, job done. But there are suddenly a squillion other things to do. And all the jobs on the plot and the watering and the weeding and keeping things tidy and dealing with dahlias who've been very high maintenance. So there's a lot going on all over the place. And if you're doing it just by yourself and you haven't got any support or anyone that you can delegate tasks to, you do need to maximize your day and how you spend your time and make sure that you don't drop any of the balls that you're juggling. Um, at the same time as all of that, you need to be thinking 1 year, 5 years ahead, and also in terms of this week, next month. So you have all of that going on in your head as well. And it can help to write it all down, just have a massive brain dump and get rid of it all. Because I'm thinking not just, okay, these guys are going to be flowering in July, August, but then I'm thinking, well, what do I need to be buying in July, August? Am I doing any successional sowing as well? What do I need to get in the autumn in order to be ready for next year? What perennials do I need to top up with or buy or sow now so that they're ready for next year? And then what does next year look like? Am I going to get any different shrubs? I saw a fantastic spirea in somebody's garden the other day, and I thought I'd better get one of those for next year so that I've got more flowering spring product for sale. And, thinking long term, so 5 years, so things like peonies, you could buy them small now because for some reason, peonies are like the most expensive thing in the world. I do not know what's going on in the UK, whether it's Brexit or COVID or whatever, but when I started out years and years ago, peonies were like, I don't know, £10 or something like that. The decent ones from good companies, £30. So nobody's going to be going out and buying like 40 or 50 peonies at those kind of prices. The answer is to buy small ones, but they take a long time to really get going. So they might flower when they're little, but the difference between like a 2 or 3 year old peony and a 5 or 6 year old peony is quite enormous. So if you want to get into that, you either get the money together to buy full size ones, or you plan like 3, 5 years down the line, get small ones now, get them in the ground so that you know in 5 years' time you're going to have enough that you want to be selling. So it's just things like that, if you've got any time to do that. Weather, you will be obsessed with the weather, with weather forecasts. I'm sure you've got a weather app on your phone. I've got two on mine and I look at them all the time, not just for frost levels and nighttime temperatures, which is important, but also for days when there's going to be high winds, because that will dry everything out a lot more on the plot. And also for, spikes in temperature or sudden drops in temperature. So we're actually going from pretty high daytime temperatures at the moment to much lower next week. And in fact, looking at the forecasts, our nighttime temperatures now around about, I don't know, 10, 11 degrees, dropping down to 3 in the early part of next week, which is quite a drop for the guys. And I'm in a rural area, so we could actually have temperatures lower than 3, which starts to raise all the frost alarm bells. And so, yes, you do need to keep an eye on temperatures and winds and obviously rainfall as well. And you'll get a bit obsessed about it and you'll spend a lot of time talking about the weather with other people, with other growers. What have I put on there next on the list? Oh, yes, you spend your days babysitting the seedlings and the baby plants and worrying about them and moving them in and out. So I have already mentioned about this. This is carousel of seedlings going in, out of the house, the greenhouse, the potting on table, up to the plot. They're all on little day trips all over the place, going different places depending on what conditions they need. And when I'm not with them, I'm normally thinking about them. And I'm thinking in my head, right, what stage are you at? Can you go out yet? Because the hardy annuals can go out. But things like the zinnias are going to be sat inside with me till at least the end of May. So yeah, you will spend your day. Your head will be full of thoughts about who is where, who's doing what, who's struggling, who needs to go where, what do I need to do when I come home from work, who needs to be shifted around. Um, yeah, your head will be full of thoughts about plants. And nobody else will really understand what it's like unless they're in the business themselves. I think some of the perceptions around growing cut flowers is it's that you just throw some seeds down, everything just grows, it's all fine, dead easy. Well, if you're doing it for a business, it's not. There's so much more to it than that. There's so much more admin, record keeping, recording, planning, masses. So if you want some sympathy at this time of year, then you need to talk to other cut flower growers or nursery growers or friends that grow flowers, because nobody else will understand the circumstances, the pressure that you're in, and it can be hard to get any sympathy at this time of year. People are like, well, you wanted to do it, and it can't be that difficult. And actually, it is pretty difficult, and it's just nice to talk to somebody who does something similar to you, and they will understand what you're going through. Next on my list, you really have no idea what's coming down the line to knock you off course. Um, you and this is always going to be the case, actually, not even when you're new, but when you are new, you just have no idea what things are going to be like, and it's quite a steep learning curve. And you do just have to go with the flow and try and um, not see try and predict, I suppose, what might be coming, and always plan for the worst case scenario. So plan for droughts, plan for heat waves, plan for wet conditions, plan for disruptions to the best that you can. And then if things go wrong, at least you've thought about it in your head. Right, next on my list, your social life collapses. Yes, this is 100% a thing. Um, I just I don't know how many times I can say to people it's peak season. It's not actually peak season. That hasn't. We're just about in peak season now, but I don't I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to go on a day trip. I don't want to go out and do anything social. I have so much to do, and I think it's not just the physicality of it, it's the mental headspace. So my headspace is in the business. I'm thinking about all of this stuff nonstop. And this could be unique to me. Maybe you will be able to do things differently, but I don't want to be taken away, pulled away from this really crucial time of the year. I feel like I have one shot to get all of this right. And so I don't really want downtime away from it. I actually enjoy the buzz and the craziness of all of this. I like it, even though I may moan to you about it. I do really love it. And I've waited like all winter for this. Waited indoors, in the cold, in the dark for this time of year to come. And it might be crazy and a little bit out there, but I still love it. So I don't want to go and see any of my friends. I don't want to go and do this, that, and the other. I don't want to relax and have any downtime, because I know how much there is to do, and there's a really small window to do it. Now, you might be able to balance your life a bit better than I have, but that is just how I feel about it. And nobody really says at the beginning, well, your social life is going to collapse. Well, I'm here to tell you that it kind of does. And my friends, family are good enough to know that this period in time will pass. And in a couple of months, we'll be sitting on the plot, surrounded hopefully by flowers, having a barbecue and relaxing. And we can joke about how frantic it was in April and May and how nobody saw me. But at the moment, I don't want anything else to go into my head unless it is plant, seedlings, flower related, because there's no capacity for anything other than what I'm trying to deal with now. You will have really long and exhausting days. I did touch on this at the start of the episode, actually. The days are long, they can be very tiring, and it never stops. There is always something to do. It's hard to take a break. Everywhere I look, there's something to do. And I, yeah, there's no way around that. It's just how it is at this time of year. It does strain relationships, and that is challenging. Um, but you have to make it clear to people that this is just a really busy time of the year, and they're going to have to bear with you. They either come and get stuck in and help take some of the pressure off, or they just have to bear with you until it passes and you move into the next phase of the business, which is when everybody is outside doing their own thing. And once they're in the soil, they can regulate their conditions a lot better. They don't need me babysitting them. And obviously, the dahlias are like a huge thing. It's like having like 40, well, what did I count up? 56 I've got, and I've got 7 more coming in the post from Halls of Heaven. So that's like having like 63 little people living in my living room, and they look at me all the time. They're like, "What are we doing? Where are we going? Are we staying in here? How much growth do we put on? What's happening?" Some of them are in pots, some of them are still in trays. Um, they're a huge responsibility because I'm hoping they will be a good earner, and so yeah, well, my relationship kind of flips onto looking after these 56 that are in the living room at the moment, and making sure that they are happy and have the best start in life, and prioritizing their needs, which is really tough on everybody else. But these guys are the business. And when you're starting out, the business is all encompassing. You can't stop thinking about it. I wake up thinking about it. I go to bed thinking about it. I think about it all day long. And you remember all those things that I've said on previous episodes that I was going to be doing, like, oh, marketing, going to find a backup florist, doing this, that, and the other. Yeah, that's all gone out the window because it's literally dealing with what's in front of you. I haven't forgotten about all of those things, but right now, the priority is looking after these guys and getting them well set up and established so they can go out to the plot and hit the ground running, and then there will be the opportunity to do all of that. I did see my lovely florist again this week and touched base with her, and I'm so excited about working with her. I really can't wait. She's so talented. I mean, my goodness, she's incredible. So, yeah, that's kind of all of I suppose that's all probably a really, really negative, bit of a grumpy list, really. But I would rather share with you the honest version of how I am finding out things to be. Um, are there any pluses to it? Um, well, that's a good question. It is very rewarding. I mean, this is what I love to do. I love growing. It's my favorite thing. And I wouldn't want to do anything else. So I guess the reward is seeing that I can actually do what I think I can do. I'm good at growing things. My seedlings are beautiful, apart from the nigellas that had a crisis, but nobody else has, so not all my fault. It is really exciting starting out at the beginning of the year and thinking about how things could go the rest of the year. And and running your own business, running your own diary, being the boss is the best thing ever. So if you're already doing it, great. If you're thinking about doing it, 100% do it. It is a brilliant thing to do in your life, and I don't think you'll regret it for one moment, even though this time of year like pushes me to my absolute limit. So yes, pros and cons, but I hope some of that list is interesting and perhaps even helpful to you if you're thinking about starting. So I think that is me for today. I've got a job on this morning, and I've got some preparations to do for the bank holiday weekend. So it's the May Day weekend, so no work on Monday, which is great, but I will be doing stuff. Obviously, I'll be on the plot. I just won't be working for anybody else, which is great. So I hope that you have a wonderful weekend wherever you are. I hope that you manage to carve out a little bit of time for yourself, even if it's only 10 minutes with a coffee and a sit down, and that things are going okay for you. And if you've started this year, that things aren't too fraught for you. Could just be me making a hash of things. I don't know. But all the very best to you. And I will be back on Tuesday with the next episode, when hopefully it will be an awful lot cooler. Things will be a bit more straightforward, and I will have some positive news for you. So have a wonderful weekend and have a super bank holiday if you're in the UK. And I'll catch you next week.